right, we're going to plan to get started a couple minutes after 11 today, just to allow some time for folks to join the webinar, and then we'll get going. We're just going to give it another couple minutes for folks to join us on the webinar, and then we'll get going. Thank you for joining us today.
Finishing up the abstract now.
It's a pretty great picture you have there, Martin. I wish we could make that full screen.
I just realized I should probably turn the camera on because I didn't realize my picture was me with a dart in me.
Well, it's a good thing we're only broadcasting on YouTube, and but it's the way it is. All right, folks, we're just going to give it another couple minutes, another minute or so, and then we'll get going. Okay, well, we'll get started here. It is 3 minutes after 11 o'clock in the morning. Welcome and thank you for your interest in the Capital Region Indicators Project and website, capitalregionindicators.org. This tool was developed with partners, including the Capital District Regional Planning Commission, the Capital Region Chamber, the Community Foundation for the Greater Capital Region, the Capital District Transportation Committee, and was built by the Avail Lab at UAlbany, and we'll hear from them later. I'd just like to also thank, in particular, the Capital Region Chamber and Marna Redding and Mark Egan for their leadership and their partnership in helping to arrange today's webinar. The partners hope this tool will cultivate a better understanding of our community's well-being over time by putting useful data at the fingertips of municipalities and nonprofit organizations. We hope this tool will cultivate consensus around and help to identify what our region's key indicators are among regional stakeholders and philanthropic organizations. Finally, we want it to be useful in people's day-to-day, from completing paperwork to applying for grant funds to support the important work that you all do. So a little housekeeping. This session is being recorded, so all of our speakers will be on our best behavior. It's also being broadcast live on YouTube, where folks can return to CDRPC's YouTube page to view a recording of this session. We can also, you can ask questions in the chat function, and we'll do our best to get those answered. You can also mention that you would like to ask a question, and we can unmute you to ask your question live, and that sometimes helps make the webinar a bit more dynamic. So just let us know again. Let us know if you want to ask a question in the chat feature, or just type your question in the chat feature, and we'll be able to get those answered. And of course, we'd be more than happy to provide a more detailed presentation to your organization or more additional staff in your organization at a future date. So just, reach out to us if you'd like that to happen. As with any good tool, this tool is a work in progress, and your questions are critical to help making this tool better and more useful for everyone. A variety of improvements have been made since the website was launched in early 2020, which seems like just yesterday and 1,000 years ago at the same time. And we will highlight some of those changes and improvements that were made during this past year for those who have been introduced to the website tool previously. When you leave here today, we hope that you'll have a good understanding about the tool and what it includes and how you can use it to get the information that you want. We also hope that you will leave inspired with the ideas about how to use this tool in your day-to-day work. And finally, we hope that you will continue to provide your ideas about how to make this tool better so we can continuously improve and make it more useful for stakeholders in the region. We'll start with an overview of the tool and its features. We'll review profile pages, indicators, data visualizations, and note the improvements that have been made over the past year along the way. We'll show you how to compare data over time between geographies, download tables, images, embed code for use on your website, and direct data downloads for future data analysis that you may want to conduct. We'll also explore the mapping interface and how to navigate through various profile interfaces from census tract to block groups. We may also reference additional online tools and resources that resonate with what we're trying to do with the Capital Region Indicators website. As I mentioned before, this tool and website was built by the Albany Visualization and Informatics Lab, aka the Avail Lab at UAlbany. And they continue to be the technical lead consultant on improving and administering the website. Avail is the premier data science engineering group at the State University of New York at Albany, with a mission to empower a new generation of students to assimilate computer science knowledge and subject matter expertise into the fields of data science and analytics. In doing so, Avail is formulating innovative solutions for private businesses and governments like our website here, capitalregionindicators.org. With us to help us walk through the tool is Eric Kranz, Program Manager for the Avail Lab. Eric manages business development at Avail, including project management, reporting, client interaction, grant writing, graphic design, and song and dance. Mr. Kranz has been experienced with delivering projects on schedule, meeting milestones with clients ranging from low-income urban constituents to the Departments of States, Transportation, and Federal Highway Administration. And without any further ado, I'll turn it over to Eric Kranz to begin the presentation.
Great. And are you giving me access now to, is my screen something I can share?
You should be able to share. If you can't, we can figure it out.
Great. Let me see what's going on. More, let's see. I don't think it's giving me the ability to share my screen yet.
All right, you may want to give it another go because I just checked the bubble that would allow you to share your screen.
Okay, great. Rename hide self. Let's see if I can do it this way. There we go. Beautiful. So can you see my screen on your end? Beautiful. All right. So I'm going to try to do my best to bring folks through this as though you've never seen it before. I know there's probably a number of folks on this call who have had this presentation before, so bear with me on it as I take folks through, because I'm sure there's some people who haven't seen it before. So what I'll start with here is when you land on the site, you'll see the page that you're seeing right now. It provides a little bit of context on the data and the suggested web browser. I should start with that. Chrome, Firefox are the, and Microsoft Edge are the site, the web browsers that this has been tested on. So we recommend using that. Internet Explorer is being deprecated or has been deprecated by Microsoft, so it's no longer supported. So it's not going to work properly on Internet Explorer. Additionally, there's other information here that can orient you towards what we're about to see here throughout the website. One thing to note as well is that although this website is responsive in some ways, it's not fully responsive. So we do mention if you're using a smartphone, that at the very least rotate it to a landscape mode as you're reviewing the website or going through it. And again, it is not fully responsive. And that's partially because a lot of these visualizations are they just will not work in the responsive smartphone environment. So it's recommended that you use a internet browser if that's what you have available. So first thing first is we'll talk about navigation. So across the top here, there are a couple of different views that we can take into this to the site. The first is the Capital Region view. The second is the Greater Capital Region view, and then the third is the mapping interface. The Capital Region and Greater Capital Region are going to bring you to almost exactly the same page. The only difference is that the Greater Capital Region includes some counties that are not included in the Capital Region. So the Capital Region is Albany, Rensselaer, Saratoga, and Schenectady. And as we move into the, let me move this out of the way here. As we move into the Greater Capital Region, we see that we're looking at Washington, Warren, Greene, and Columbia counties as well. And so let's just start with clicking on one of these profiles here. So there's a couple, as Mark mentioned, there's a couple of different ways that we can view data here. The first is profiles, and this is going to have a couple of different geographic levels as we zoom in here. So the first is the Capital Region, right? As we scroll down here, you'll notice just give your site a second to load. As you scroll, the visualizations and the data is being pulled directly from the US Census. So it takes a minute to calculate and load. So if you're not getting anything, if something is not loading for you, just scroll your site up and down a little bit and give it a second, and it'll load as you see here. So the first thing to note is as we land on this Capital Region page, we are getting comparison visualizations of the various counties, and we're getting indicators at the total regional level. So the total population of all 4 counties combined, the median household income within all 4 counties, and that's your first view, right? So we're looking at a series of different visualizations that are showing us sort of the relative relationship between the counties in terms of a number of things. Those are organized by, we've put them into buckets to try to organize the site so that it makes a little bit of sense in how you flow through it. So the overview is what was determined through the process, the development process here, as the sort of big picture indicators. And as Mark mentioned, we're still very interested in your input. If there's other big picture indicators you think should be front and center, please let us know. Those are things that can easily be moved around in the site. Again, right now the site is only accessing the American Community Survey through the US Census. There is some effort to include other data sets on here. But the US Census does provide a lot of interesting pieces of data, variables that we can make visualizations on. So if you know of any that you're interested in, specifically for your work, please let us know and we'll figure out where it fits. So we have the overview, we have economy, social welfare, health, education, housing, and transportation. And each and every one of these items will bring us directly to that section. So social welfare, we're now looking at the social welfare section. Education brings us down to the education section. So that's the first thing to note. This, and if you'll notice, if I switch over here, so I'm looking right now, I'm at the health section right here. Sorry about that. I'm at the health section right now. If I go over to the Greater Capital Region here, I maintain my position in the website. So it's still at the health section, and now it's going to start loading the other 4 counties. So you can see here, we now are seeing the Greater Capital Region. It's the same profile, but with additional counties included. I'm now going to jump in to just real quick here, show you how this goes down the ladder geographically, and then I'll take a look at what questions have come up so far. So the regional page is showing us these county by county comparisons, but when we click on an actual county, we get a different kind of profile. So this new kind of profile is the county profile. This is the same profile that's going to work at the county level, the municipal level, and at the census and block group levels. So there's a slightly different look here now. We are looking at directly at one geography, right? So this is the county. I can zoom in to look at a municipality. I can zoom in to look at a census tract. All of them will have the same set of graphs here that show us the indicators for the geography profile. So here we have, this is Albany County. And one of the neat things we can do on this Albany County one is we can compare it to another geography as well. So if we want to select a different geography to compare it to, let's say we want to compare Albany and Saratoga counties. Now we can start to see comparison. So between Albany County and Saratoga, these comparisons arriving here on the screen. Martin, can you mute your Zoom, your microphone?
Sorry.
No worries. So as we go through here, you'll notice we have now 2 lines in the graph. We have Albany County and Saratoga County. So we're able to see comparisons as we go through this way, right? We additionally can see we can view comparisons on not just based on our geographies, but we can view comparisons based on years. So right now, our current year is 2018, and our compare year is 2013. But we could do something different here. We could say, okay, let's compare to 2010. So make our current year 2010 and our compare year 2018. We can actually see that. Let's do that backwards here. 2018 versus 2010. We can see that since 2010, we've had 15% growth in median household income versus 24% growth in Saratoga County. So Albany versus Saratoga, right? And as we go through here, you'll see that those comparisons are changed. The percent growth or percent decline has changed just slightly based on the comparison year. So we can look at those 2 that way. Additionally, as you're going through these regional profiles and county and municipal profiles, we've interspersed some information here for links out to other indicator type resources or other resources that can provide additional context. So in this case, Alice is a very useful resource. I'm sure folks on the call are using it in their work or are familiar with it. But we're providing links to things like that. If you have a link or a resource that you think would be a really good piece of information to provide users here throughout throughout the interface, feel free to send those over to us. and we'll add them in as where we see that they probably belong.
And,
Additionally,
Eric,
there's-
just to chime in here real quick.
Yeah.
We put the email address where you can send suggestions, indicators@cdrbc in the chat. And we do have our first question for you, if you don't mind. Question from James. And this is related to the comparisons. And the question is, does it only compare by 1 year, or could you pull looking at trends over several years, one at a time?
Currently, we do not have that capacity to look at several years comparison all in one graph. There is potentially, or even it's interesting. I wonder what happens if I were. Yeah, I think you're actually pointing out some possible feature upgrades that could be done here. Right now, what we're seeing is the current year comparison year is happening in these these sort of these stat boxes, right? That's where you're seeing your comparison. You're seeing the comparison of the geographies in the visualizations, but you're seeing comparison of year on the left. And we can be a little bit more clear about that, I think, in this somehow. But to be able to see multiple year comparisons, or even to be able to see 2 years on the same graph, I wonder if that's even something that would make sense to do. It's something worth looking into, and we'll take note of that and see what that might produce for us in terms of possibilities. Thank you. Are there any other questions at this point?
No other questions. I would just like to point out that the data points on the line graph do show the different data from the different years.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, right. So that is one way to see the years over time change. Additionally, each of these visualizations has some additional things we can do. So across the top of them, you'll see view data, save image, and share embed. So this opens up a screen here where we can download data, right? So across the top here, you see view data, save image, or share embed, right? Right now we're on the view data tab, and we can download filtered data or unfiltered data. So that means, so this will give us two different kinds of downloads. We can add filters if we feel like we want to filter by census key, census label, etc. We can filter in different ways here, and then download, or we can just download it directly as it is, the visualization. Download unfiltered data, and that'll drop into your browser, and it'll be an Excel file that you can open up in your Excel and take a look at the data that way. So that's one thing. The second thing here is image. So you can save it as a PNG image. That'll download directly to, so the visualization itself will download to your computer. It might just take a second to do, or it might be bugged out at this moment. We'll figure that out. And then the third one is to share or embed this. So you can take this and you can put this into your website, either with the HTML code or JSX code. So you'll need to probably work with your website manager to do that, but it provides you an iframe that allows you to put the image directly into your website. So as we move through here, so the next major thing to talk about here is that what we can do as well is if you're really interested in viewing, let's say, you're looking at the county level, maybe you want to actually look at a block group or a census tract. If you click on one of those, the census tracts there, it'll actually now set this site to be viewed at the census tract. And we can turn off our comparison here just so it becomes a little bit easier to see. So now we're taking a look at this this section of Albany over by Whitehall Road and 85. And so now if you download data, it will download just for this tract. And so this entire site now is showing you data just for this tract that you've selected. Additionally, you should note that there is some data that is located within this site that doesn't provide information, that the census doesn't provide the information below certain levels. So there's some things that are available at the county level that aren't available at the municipal or tract level. And so we're working to try to show when that's actually the case here. So you see here, this is something that we're working at, getting a visualization that tells you that below poverty level doesn't exist at this level, geographic level. The data doesn't exist, so the visualization isn't showing up here. But there is still a number of different visualizations that do show up at that level. So you'll have to just understand that it's about data availability. Okay, so we have looked at comparison, we've looked at download. The next thing here, I think that's really important to look at is the mapping interface. So, and this is another place that we're going to be increasing the set of features in the current year. And so what you'll see here is that right now what we have is sort of a finite list of visualizations. And as part of the CDRPC's mission is to map a large variety of indicators from the census, and we are working to bring those in over the course of this year. And there'll be a little bit, it'll be a little bit more, they'll have more tools for how to dive through that. But right now what we have, it starts off, we have a visualization of total population in the capital region. And we can select different values if we want to shrink the size of what we're looking at here down to Albany County. We can do that. We're looking at geography level by municipality. If we wanted to look at it by tracts, we can now change the visualization so it's showing us tracts. Again, these red lines on the map are showing you your town boundaries. We've been talking about bringing in village boundaries as well, which will help out with a couple of additional issues that we've talked about. And you'll see here we can change the date as well, just as we could in the other pages. And as you zoom in here, one of the things that we also have is the ability to sort of give yourself some context. So we have the ability to turn the opacity down so you can see the underlying road network, et cetera, if that's something that you need. And actually, one of the things that's complicated here right now is that as part of our update that we're doing right now, I think we've actually removed our other indicators from this. I mean, I have to give myself a refresh to see if it's something that loaded improperly, or if this is actually a bug that's live. Looks like it is. So one of the things that's missing right now is the actual indicators that you could select. So this is something that will be fixed in very short order, and we'll be back up. Like I said earlier, there's a handful of other visualizations that you can view through this interface. And another neat thing is sometimes like the colors are sometimes hard to see comparative. So we have this legend up in the top right here where you have white is indicating low population, dark blue is high population. And you see here the second to the last or the highest population amounts here are 16,000 and 98,000. So this is saying this is above 98,000, all these dark blue ones here. It's kind of hard to see the difference. So there's an 80, the difference in terms of what your population is hard to see from this angle, but we've provided this neat little nifty 3D thing so you can actually see a really clear visualization of the difference in terms of population. So here's where your 98,000 population is. It's Albany City, whereas Colony is 83,000 and Schenectady 66. And so all of these, although they are in the same realm of blue, you can see the vast difference in terms of population as you look at it from the 3D angle. And that button is up here for those interested. We additionally have the ability to view.
Just pointing out, Eric, you can also rotate the view so you can see the difference, you know.
Right. So as we move in this direction here, so when you drag the map, it sort of keeps you at the same angle here. What you do, sorry, I hit the wrong button. If you hold the control when you're moving the map, you can spin the map. So that's just something you can spin it up and bring it down. So just something to note is if holding control and clicking allows you to do this, what I'm doing right now. And as you scroll over these here as well, another point here should be made is that if I click on this here, it will open that profile as we saw earlier. So if I wanted to open the same, one of the same profiles that I saw earlier, you can access profiles through the mapping interface. But I wanted to show first that we do have the ability to download these images. So total population, the image downloader works here, which is great. Let's see if this actually does work for us. There you go. We're also working right now to include your the metadata for this, so the source, the year, etc., so that when you download the PNG, it provides that information in it. That's something that will be coming up soon. It's one of the planned updates. But right now, at least you can download this image and directly put it into your to like a paper or anything like that you might be making. And again, you can view data and download just as we did earlier. So again, there's a feature issue right now where we only have total population on the map. That's actually that'll be fixed in the coming week or so. There are a number of different visualizations that you can see via the map currently, and then over the course of this year, there are planned. The plan is to include a plethora and a nested by the same structure as the rest of the site. So there will be a social welfare section that'll have a series of different variables that you can look at. There'll be a economy section that'll have a series of different variables. There'll be a housing section, et cetera. So it'll be organized in the same way as the profiles are, so that it'll be something that sort of moves intuitively throughout the site. So I think that covers the overview. Mark, was there anything that I missed?
Did you want to talk about, I think, a large piece of this, the motivation was to get and look at neighborhood level data. And I think the mapping interface on the profile page, does a good job at that. And, the relationship between how to find the neighborhood data, the block group data, et cetera, from the profile pages and vice versa, and how to set up comparisons between different quote unquote neighborhoods. Great.
Yeah, this is a great point, Mark. One to note here is that we currently don't have in the tool the ability to compare two block groups or census tracts, but that is something that we are actively working to bring into the tool. It's just a little bit of a complication in terms of how you would bring it in. The biggest complication is most of us don't know the numbers of tracts or block groups providing a list of numbers as in a filter would just really it can get a little bit complicated. So we are working to make that something where you could potentially click on two different tracks on the map and then open a comparison view or something along those lines. So that's something that we're working to do right now.
Right. So I mean, if you go back to one of the profile pages and you see that embedded map there, given that the neighborhood comparison was significantly of interest, and as pointed out, nobody knows the numbers of the block groups. This visual interface is intended to be your gateway to getting neighborhood data. So right now, to enable you to compare the different neighborhoods, block groups, et cetera, is essentially pulling up a profile page of a block group or what have you. And then you'll be able to have a live link to the profile page. So if I was doing an analysis of two block groups, I would simply copy and paste the URL of this profile page into, say, a Word document. So I'd be able to readily access the comparison data if I was doing a report or what have you.
Right. Yeah, and again, we do think that there are some simple solutions we can make it to bringing in a comparison. I mean, it's not simple in the software side, but something that could be simple for the users, and we're working to try to make that possible as well, so that you could. Because right now, what you can do is we have selected this block group, but we could compare it to say Albany City, and so we can compare geography and so block group 2, which is what we had selected, and Albany City. So so we're seeing a comparison here between those two. Again, one of the issues we have here is that there's some data is not available at the block group. So that's another piece that's just something to keep in mind as you're diving in here. But at some point it should be possible to compare two block groups, because I think there's been a lot of interest in that at this point. But Mark is providing you with a workaround that he uses to be able to do it. Again, it's easy if you look up here at the top of the site, you see that it really does make a lot of sense, the way that we've designed the URL. So your profile is first with the block group number, and then the comparison, and then the next one. So you could save these and reopen them and directly come back into the analysis that you were doing at any time.
Hey, Eric, we have a question.
Additionally,
from,
for folks that don't really,
we have a quick question from the audience, from Beth. She was asking if you can type in an address that figures out what tract it corresponds to.
That is a great feature suggestion. We currently don't have that. That's not been planned into our features, but it is an interesting, obvious next step. So thank you for that suggestion. I can see a lot of value in that in terms of use cases. So that's something to definitely consider going forward. Right, and I'm trying to think if I missed anything here that's of importance for using the site. I think we've covered it. Again, I just wanted to give folks one more opportunity to see the general. I'm just going to talk through generally how this is all organized one more time. So you've got your large regional view, and then you've got these sub-regional views. And right now, the one that we're looking at right now is a sub-regional view. And then when we go up to the larger, and this sub-regional view provides you municipality, county, census, and block group information. And again, there's some data that's not available at the block group, some data that's not available at the census. Most everything, I believe, is available at the municipality. There may be one or two variables that aren't. Everything's available at the county level on this tool. And so we can view these in comparison to each other and in comparison to different years. It's as simple as just changing your current year and your comparison year, and also selecting a comparison geography brings a second line graph in a lot of places. It brings in a second set of data here in these indicators as well. And again, the organization is by buckets. We have our overview, our economy, social welfare, health, education, housing, and transportation. If there's anything that you think that the census can provide you in any one of these areas that you think would be helpful to you, please let us know, and we can try to track down how to visualize that. Additionally, if you think that there's something that really belongs at the top of these overviews as like a major indicator, let us know, because I think one of the other pieces that we want to do is start telling a story about the region. Instead of just having this be a data portal, to start providing some form of story that sort of indicates the health and trajectory of the capital region. So those indicators that you think are most important are the ones that we want to start looking into to figure out what's best for indicating the health of the region.
Hey, Eric, we have another question from Beth. School district level info would be very much appreciated if you're considering other comparisons or ways to aggregate data. You want to talk a little bit about we are looking to incorporate some school district level data?
Yes, so the census geography, there is a census geography for school districts. The complication with it right now that we're working through is that it doesn't align with directly one-to-one with municipal boundaries or county boundaries. So there's a number of issues where if you're looking at City of Albany, there are sections of the City of Albany that are in the Guilderland School District, for instance. So we would need, in the education section, I think we would probably provide some crosswalk that allows you to bounce out to the school district geography. And then it's very likely that we could provide probably the same exact profile at the school district geography. So the same one that you're looking at the census tract and at the municipal level, we would provide at the school geography. So we are looking into that, and that's something that we very much like to be able to offer within this tool. Looks like there's a couple more questions here. Great, yeah. Right, so, but it's tricky, but it's doable. I think so. The way to get to it is really the trickiest part, and it was tricky even in terms of trying to figure out how to get into block groups. This is exactly what we're talking about earlier. Like if I had put, we talked about this for ad nauseum as a project group. If you were to put in to the drop-down menu, the census tracts, for instance, or the block groups, et cetera, each and every layer just adds complication and adds, potential for confusion. So we, as a group, realized that. So really the easiest way to utilize the sort of census tract and block group capacity is through the mapping interface. So it makes a lot of sense to be able to just click on the map to select. Now, one of the issues that obviously provides for us is that this map here is broken up by block groups, and there's nowhere to set it to change it to census groups. So there's no way to access census tracts via this mapping interface. You'd have to go to this mapping interface in order to access the census tract level. Again, this is all like user interface design. It's complicated stuff to just get it right. So if there's any suggestions that folks have for easy ways to organize it, let us know. We've been looking into all the different tools that are available nationally that utilize the census, and it's complicated everywhere you look. So anything we can do, anything that you find works for your workflow, it could be potentially helpful for us here. So again, if you wanted to check out census tracts, the way to do it is to set the geography level on the mapper interface to census to tracts, and then you'll be able to jump in here, and you can click on any one of these like this, and you will open the profile here. So census tract 13508, and we'll see that all load up here in just a second. Again, now we see the block groups here, which is another reason why we thought it made sense to show the block groups when showing the map, is that now you can see this is comprised, this census tract is comprised of 3 block groups. Are there other questions here? Okay, thank you, Beth, for that resource. And somebody on my team, if you could just pull that down so that we can take a look at that, that'd be helpful.
Got it.
Great. Excellent. So is there anything else, Mark, that you think I could show right now while we have another 15 minutes that you think would be helpful for folks?
I mean, I think you covered it, but maybe we can spend a little bit of time to foreshadow some of the additional things that are planned, improved thus far. We talked about school district data, the geography issue is obviously something we need to provide some thought about. The initial easiest way of accessing school district data is sort of an intersection model. Whereas if your school district intersects with this municipal boundary, you'll get a link out to a profile page for that school district or what have you. So that's one of the navigation user interface solutions that we've been considering for the tool to help people access the school district data relatively easily. But do you want to just talk a little bit about some of the things that you've worked on or are planning on working on in 2021?
Right. So, and also just note now that a couple of the things, we've tightened up the site over the course of 2020. You might not, some of the fixes that we've made, for instance, a lot of what you're seeing on the mapping interface here is brand new. One of the things that we've implemented this sort of opacity scrolling thing, which was really interesting for us, so that the further out you are, the more opaque the visualization is. But as you zoom in, it just automatically shows you the underlying map. That was helpful for context. We've shored up some of the download information. We've also provided loading. This previously wasn't available to us, available to users before. Just the loading note, also notes telling you when data is available or unavailable is new update. We've shored up a number of the visualizations. So there were some issues with the labeling. There were some issues with what the data was pulling, how the calculations were running. We've gone through and swept that all up into what we think we're pretty sure at this point that everything you're seeing in here is accurate. And if there's any issues that you find in your work. So for instance, one issue that came up that sort of foreshadows 2021 is that the 2010 information in here is not the decennial census. It is the 2010 ACS 5-year estimates. So if you typically are comparing in your work, if you compare typically to the 2010 decennial census, the information in the 2010 decennial versus the information in the 2010 ACS 5-year estimate is not exactly equal. It's not 1-to-1. And so one of the things that we're going to be implementing in 2021 is a way to shape the site based on the 2010 and 2020 decennial censuses, so that you can view the profile with that data. And so you would then be able to compare 2020 to 2010 directly through the tool. And it would only allow you to compare those two, because that's the only comparison. Well, if there's interest in comparing decennial census to ACS, we could look into it. It's probably not advisable because they're not the same shape of the data as I just mentioned. But if there is interest in it, it shouldn't be that hard to do. So again, that's one of the things looking forward to 2021 that was brought up during 2020 as folks were trying to use this tool to look back and to compare it back to 2010 and realizing that the outputs were not the same. And so that is something to note across the board here.
So, I mean, with that, I think we can open it up to questions if folks want to ask them live or in the chat box. If you want to ask a question live, just type something in the chat box and I'll go ahead and unmute you.
And I'll just keep, while it's going on, a couple more things foreshadowing to 2021 include we're working to bring in labor statistics and we have, and there's some other additional Capital District Regional Planning Commission data that we're going to be looking at bringing in here as well. And then I mentioned earlier that there will be a much larger list of mappable variables that you'll be able to to access throughout 2021. So that's gonna continue to grow, the mapping side of this. And lastly, we're still working on getting the source information and the data source information, et cetera, into the downloads when you pull the information out of the site. So that's a fairly short list of what we're working on right now, but you'll notice a lot of that stuff will be updated over 2021.
All right, the deafening silence on the question front, I think, is a ringing endorsement for the work you've done thus far, Eric. But seriously, if anybody wants to ask a question, we're here. Wants to make a comment about potential improvements, wants to nerd out about census ACS data, that's what we're here for.
And again, you'll notice. Oh, sorry. And again, you'll notice that some of the visualizations take longer to load than others. And this is just a complication sometimes with the calculations. So bear with it. The loading, it is helpful now that we have this loading indicator. Previously, it just seemed like nothing was happening when it was in fact loading. So, and again, you may need to scroll a little bit up and down to get things to load. Just keep that in mind as you're moving through.
It's also, I think, important to note for folks interested in this stuff that if you don't find what you need in the indicators website, CDRPC also has a whole host of data on its website, cdrpc.org. If you don't find what you need on that website or this website, give us a call or send us an email, cdrpc@cdrpc.org. Part of the services that we provide the region includes data analysis for organizations. So we can potentially do some custom data analysis for you if needed. Okay. Well, with that, I think I'll thank Eric Kranz for the presentation today. And again, if you have any suggestions for this tool, please email them to indicators@cdrpc.org. And we will certainly appreciate the input that you may have for that. Okay. Thank you all, and have a great rest of your day.